I'm not a coffee snob, but that is not good. Anyway, morning everybody, and welcome to a scene that I'm kicking myself about a little bit, to be honest, because a couple of weeks ago, that would have looked much better. Would have been more orange, essentially, I think, but it doesn't really matter too much because I'm not here for that shot. Here for a shot that's over there. Well, this has very quickly gone from a shot to a scout on the basis that it's nowhere near as atmospheric this morning as I thought it would be. You would think that I didn't look at weather forecasts, but trust me, I do. And this morning I was hoping it was going to be moody, atmospheric, maybe a bit frosty, maybe a bit of mist. And well, as you can see, no. Anyway, yes, a scout it is, and a good excuse to test out my new wellies. I don't know if you can see that. Oh, that's terrible flexibility. Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I spent an entire week in Iceland with just Arctic water in my boots. So thought I'd get some new wellies. Oh, also actually, while we're on the subject of new stuff, I got myself one of these, which is a Garmin inreach Mini. I should have got one years ago really, but basically it's a GPS satellite SOS tracker thing. You can basically hit a button if you get into trouble where there's no phone service, and somebody will come and get you. Anyway, waffling on, today the aim has very quickly become get the exact composition that I want for when the conditions are good here. And who knows how many times I'm going to have to come here before that happens, but if I find the composition, then most of the work is already done. Right, so what I'm looking for is really quite simple. Basically, I'm thinking that I want a straight on shot, straight onto the barn that is, and I want a relatively clear foreground. I mean, I don't mind some detail in the foreground, maybe some of this, but not so much that it obscures the barn. I was going to call it a cottage, but it's very clearly not a cottage. Now, I suppose high up gives me the best chance of a relatively clear foreground, and this might be it. Trouble is, I'm not exactly straight on here. I need to come down here, and then the further down you go, the more obscured the foreground. I'm thinking a bit harder about this stuff than I usually do at the moment, because this week I've spent a lot of time editing about 4,500 photos that I took in Iceland. And whenever you have an intensive period of photography like that, basically, what's that? I don't know, 700-800 photos a day, you tend to find that when you go through those photos, you end up spotting patterns, the kind of compositions that you go for, the kind of focal lengths that you're drawn to, the mistakes that you make. And I, at the moment, seem to be going through a little bit of a bout of something that I've suffered with on and off throughout my entire career, which is not paying enough attention to the stuff that's around the subject. And in my case, often that's just because I get distracted by a really cool subject, or sometimes you have like a really bright subject that you're exposing for, and therefore everything else in the frame is dark, and it's only when you get back home in post that you notice that the shadows are full of distractions. But whatever it is, it's annoying. And therefore I'm trying to actively pay a bit more attention to all the other stuff that's in the frame aside from the subject at the moment. Need a little mound just there. Right then, GoPro on. And actually, before I start, you might think that this is a terrible choice of trouser, this sort of light brown while you're walking through wet woodland, but I live my life terrified of ticks. So when you wear trousers like this, you can sort of see them better than squash them. Anyway, this, I think, somewhere around here is a decent place to start. What I'll probably do is end up with, I don't know, 5 to 10 different compositions, hopefully, that I think potentially could work. And then I can just sort of pick through the best ones or work through the best ones when I next come. But from here with this one, this is what we get at 35mm. Probably bright enough to turn the self-timer off now. And then if we go into APS-C crop, this is what we get at roughly 50mm, which actually I think is quite a lot better. I mean, not today, but when conditions are good, 50mm looks pretty nice, particularly now that all the colour has gone off of those trees. Joke for ticks. I think we're all good. So I have been trying to think of ways that I can combat this bad habit that I seem to fall into every, I don't know, 6 months or so. And I think I might have a solution, which is basically reading the frame or the composition or the photo, whatever you want to call it. And basically that's exactly as it sounds. So when you look at a book or a page in a book that's full of words, you don't start in the middle or just focus in the middle. You read it left to right, line by line. And I'm wondering if that's how I need to try and look at my photos. Left to right, line by line. Don't know how many lines I need to split the photos into, maybe 3, because that works quite well with the rule of thirds guide on my camera. But I'm wondering if that, or the habit of that, will force me to look at everything in the frame and therefore be able to spot and discount distractions a bit more easily. I remember having this problem a lot when I was a beginner. Anyway, here we are, 5 years into this being my full-time job, and still making that mistake. These conditions are rubbish. Oh yeah. There isn't quite a view of the barn that's completely unobstructed between these two trees. So I'm at 75mm-ish, maybe 80. And it's okay, but there definitely are still some obstructions. Let me show you. So on the right hand side, we're dealing with this little selection of branches here. And on the left hand side, we're dealing with these branches here. I don't even really see my finger with this lens. But if I go either side by kind of a foot, it just makes the other worse. So I've basically got to choose which of the two branches is least offensive. You know, the more time I spend up here, the more I'm convinced that compression is the answer for this scene. I just like that it brings in the trees on the hill in the background. And shooting at 135mm, which actually, as you'll learn from next week's video, is becoming one of my favourite focal lengths, I think it looks pretty good. It also gives me the opportunity to get rid of some of the messy grass to the right of these rocks down here. So on the next frosty, misty, atmospheric morning, I think this may be the place that I come. Just not this morning. And we'll go and have a look just up there, just to see what's possible. Well, this is the straight on view, which I'm not sure how well you can see on the GoPro. Let me just get a shot of it. Stay. So yeah, not terrible, but it is, as you can see, obstructed, which is a shame, because if that branch on the left wasn't there, this would be an epic place for a moody shot, but it's not to be. Again, for reference, that was 135. No, I think we have a couple of winners, which are 50mm from down there, right in front of it, and about 135mm from that rock over there. And so in the words of television, back to the studio. Where am I going here?
And welcome to the studio, which is not a studio at all. It's a little office in my house. It's not even an office. I've put a desk in a bedroom. That's it. Anyway, here is a photo from Iceland that I think illustrates what I've been trying to talk about today. So that's Vestrahorn in the background, the mountain, and I love this place, absolutely love it, except I messed up this time. I spent about 20 minutes, I'm ashamed to say, looking at this composition, and I didn't see anything wrong with it. I didn't spot that the strands of grass I was hoping to separate with the use of the black sand actually blend in to the grass in the midground. And yes, as I say, I didn't notice. Now the photo is not necessarily the problem. It's the fact that my intention was to take an entirely different photo, and my lack of attention meant that, yeah, I got it completely wrong. So yes, my hope is that you don't suffer from this same thing, this lack of looking at a scene properly. But if you do, then hopefully this reading thing that I've been talking about helps. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I'm hopeful that I get a chance to get back out to that location and take the photo in a nice cold, frosty atmosphere. It won't be over the course of the next week though, because I'm packing your book orders, which I'm very excited to do. Thank you so much for those, I really appreciate it. And yeah, as I say, I can't wait to get them out to you. I'm sorry it's taken a little bit longer than I expected, but if you haven't had a fulfillment email by Saturday the 4th of December, basically the time that the next video comes out, then do let me know, because you should have had a fulfillment email by then. Anyway, I'll see you next week when I won't be out because I'll be packing books, but I'll be talking about photos that are in some way better, hopefully. This is the problem with having a photography YouTube channel. It's all well and good when you've got images that you're excited about and you can't wait to show them on a video, but when you're talking about mistakes and your terrible images, you also have to show that as well if you want to be genuine, and well, here we are. I'll see you next week when hopefully the photos are a bit better.